Hey, welcome to another episode of Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we'll be playing Conker live and reloaded for the Xbox on the Xbox 360. Rest assured though, this is actually one of the games from what I've played that actually runs as good as the original Xbox game. As far as I can remember, I haven't come across any sound glitches or any graphical glitches or anything like that. So if you see this and all you have is a 360 and you're curious about the game, as far as I can tell, you're not going to be missing out if you pick this up. Now this was originally a Nintendo 64 game, and Microsoft eventually bought Rare. Now, what they did with all their assets, is somewhat questionable. I know there's a lot of Rare fans that are disappointed what they did, but they started off with some cool ideas. One of those cool ideas was to bring this game out to the Xbox 360 because not a lot of people got to play Conker, just because that also came out late in the console's life cycle, which was the N64. I keep on wanting to say lifestyle. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like when I say that, I'm just thinking of like a console sitting in a lounge chair, like fucking up his life, like with some like overly vodka'd up martini, probably Everclear versus vodka or whatever, just really fucking up its life, burning candles at both ends. I don't know why I think that. And instead of the olive, maybe there's like a raisin, because you do stupid shit when you drink. But well, to excess anyway. Well, yeah. So the original idea was to make this game uncensored. So I believe the original title was called Conker Live and Uncut or something along those lines. I knew like uncensored or uncut was in the title, and they were supposed to take out all the bleeping of the curse words and everything, and then add obviously the graphical upgrades. I have the original Conker's Bad Fur Day, and maybe one day I'll cover that. I never covered a Nintendo 64 game on this channel. I was really debating on giving up my Nintendo 64 collection for some extra money, but every time I trade in a console I regret it. But at the same time, I'm like, I probably haven't played my Nintendo 64 and probably, gosh, it has to be a while, like maybe like 6-7 years. It's been a long time. It's just sitting there and getting no use. And some of the games that I really enjoyed, I lent out, and I never got them back. Sometimes you're trusting with people. I don't think they did it to be shitty or to steal from me or anything. I just think with multiple moves and shit like that, shit happens. And then I believe the person also had those games, but they misplaced them. So I was like, here, you can play mine for now because you're obviously talking about them in high regard, and you seem to want to play them. And she didn't know if she had them anymore, throughout all her moves and everything, and she was living back home. So I was like, here, you can borrow my copies. And then I remember she had a grocery bag full of Nintendo 64 cards. Some of them weren't the ones that I gave her, so I can't really say that those were my copies. Maybe she found her own games, and I never inquired about it ever again, because later on came out with other ports of some of those games that I enjoyed, like the Zelda games like Ocarina of Time, which isn't my personal favorite. Sadly, I know this probably sounds pretty pathetic, but my favorite Zelda game's on the original green Game Boy, which I played a lot when I was in elementary school. I played the shit out of that game. I remember having the flu. I played it. I used to have a lot of eye surgeries because I had this growth that was growing over my eye that was making me blind. and they wanted to take it out to make sure that it wasn't cancer, and it just kept on growing back. So I missed a lot of school growing up in the 4th grade, I believe it was. So I played the shit out of that game, and that'll always be my Zelda, even though I had the original Zelda since day one. But I remember my father playing more of that. He actually had like this strategy guide. You might have seen it on some of these retro collectors channels. It's like the official Nintendo strategy guide or power guide or something like that. It's like it has like a black cover and white font. I still have a fragment of it, but it's missing pages because when I was a little kid, I took it everywhere I went and looked at those pages religiously. It didn't have like whole playthroughs of the actual game. It just had segments, and it had like all the maps on Zelda. And with Zelda, he had freaking handwritten notes. It looked like the Grail Diary on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and we accidentally erased his game, and because back then you had to hold restart and turn the power off, and yeah, we accidentally erased his game because we didn't do that right, because we were kids, we didn't know any better. We always thought that he just said that just to be on the safe side. Always trying to challenge like authority as a kid. I don't know why you do some of the stupid shit that you do when you're a kid, but anyway, we fucked up his game. He got mad and swore off video games forever, and I don't really ever remember him touching a video game unless we got a new console to like try it out or whatever. I think he played Tetris for a while. Well, that's not really a game that you say that you really get into or whatever. I mean, it's like a casual game that everybody plays. But yeah, that was my favorite Zelda. And then they came out with a 3DS version, and then she had like Majora's Mask, and I think I let her borrow Donkey Kong or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, it's in the past. I don't really care. If I really wanted those games, I could pick them up again. They have the 2 Zelda games on the 3DS. I have one of them, the Ocarina of Time, which I do like. I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's just not my favorite Zelda game, but that doesn't mean much because I think the Zelda games are great and I really enjoy them. But I mean, some people look at it as like the second coming, like it's the greatest game known to man. And then there's other people that think that way about the Super Nintendo, A Link to the Past. I don't know, it just depends what games appeal to you. Honestly, if I had a choice between Zelda and Castlevania 3, I'd probably pick Castlevania 3. So, man, I hope that blows your mind a little bit. Anyway, so, yeah, I haven't played my Nintendo 64 that much. That was a long-winded story just to tell you all of that, but that's part of the channel, is the commentary, not the actual game. The game's a nice background filler for my rambling. I gotta explain that a lot, but you know, it's okay. I don't mind. It's whatever. It adds more time because I end up playing these games longer than I usually anticipate. I mean, if I had it my way, I'd probably do 15-minute videos, but I've come to the reality is that I have more to say than 15 minutes worth of information, and it's hard for me to play a game for 15 minutes. This game also drags on a little bit more because of the cutscenes. You would think that there'd be this huge, deep story with the amount of cutscenes that they are, but they're mostly due for comedy, mostly for comedy purposes, to give you the bare bones, minimal, brief story outline. Basically, you're a squirrel that drank too much the night before and you're suffering from a hangover. You got lost on your way home and you're trying to find your way back. It's essentially it. Meanwhile, you get sucked into all these obstacles and stuff like that. It's kind of almost like a dude's "Where's My Car" like type of immature, like stupid comedy, which is great, and they parody so many films. This game starts off as one of those Banjo and Kazooie collect-a-thon, so right off the bat, this game kind of gives the wrong impression of where what it really is, because a lot of Rare games at the time, if you're not familiar with Rare made like Banjo-Kazooie, the Donkey Kong Country games. Donkey Kong 64 was another collectathon. What I mean by collectathon, it's usually sort of an open world 3D platformer. In order to progress, all you do is go on these scavenger hunts to collect a bunch of shit, and I don't like those games. This game sort of starts off like that, but where the items that you need to collect in the beginning are very obvious of where you need to go. Because if this was just a game that relied on its controversy alone, I wouldn't dig it if all you did was collect shit. So you start off with collecting shit, but it's pretty out in the open, and then the game becomes very linear, and I think that's really where the game shines, is when you start getting into the game's linear effects. Now you can see this game has a lot of cool effects, like depth of field, stuff like that. It has simulated fur. Keep in mind, this is a Xbox, original Xbox. I was going to say Xbox One, or the OG Xbox game. It's not an Xbox 360 game, but damn, to me, it looks as good as like an early Xbox 360 game. This was at the end of the original Xbox life cycle, and it really shows. This is right before Microsoft halted production on everything and started focusing on the Xbox 360. But I mean, the water has like an excellent reflection, normal map deal going on. Everything's polished, the characters cast shadows, the lighting in this game is great, and the fact that it runs on the Xbox 360 is also fantastic. Now, the Nintendo 64 version of Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is also on the Rare Replay collection, which I don't know why they didn't add this version of the game. I would think that would make more sense, considering they added Perfect Dark Zero, but whatever. So the Nintendo 64 version of this game is known to fetch around $100 and up, so it's pretty expensive. So maybe that's why they added it on the Rare Replay on the Xbox One. If you're not familiar with the Rare Replay, if I had an Xbox One, it would be one of the games I'd get. I believe it's 30 games for $30, and it's been out for a long time. It might be even cheaper now. And it has like a history of like Rare games from its early days all the way up to Xbox 360 games, and the version of Conker. Obviously they couldn't add like the Nintendo themed Rare games or the licensed games like 007 GoldenEye, but they did what they actually had the rights to, and it's quite impressive, and I think it looks like an excellent collection. And if I got an Xbox One, that would be one of the games I would get. There's not a lot of Xbox One games for me to justify if I had the money to get an Xbox One. Right now, the Xbox One exclusives that I'd be into would be Rare Replay. I would like to play the remastered versions of Halo. I'm not an online Halo player, so the whole online aspect doesn't appeal to me. But I would like to play remastered versions of all the Halo games. I don't know why they never remastered Halo Reach for that game. I figured that would be a given. That's actually, in my opinion, one of the better Halo games. So they have Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 being my favorite. I really enjoyed the anniversary remaster of the Xbox 360 version. I think that was remastered in 720p, and I like the fact that you could go back to the old style, and then they have a version of that for Halo 2, which is kind of cool, and then Halo 3 and Halo 4 just upscale to, I guess, 1080p. I don't know. I know a lot of games on the Xbox One run at 720, but since it's a remastered, I don't know this for a fact. I would imagine it would run at 1080p, but I know it had a lot of issues that they actually apologized for. So then they also added Halo, I think it's OST, whatever the Shock Trooper is called or whatever. I have that game on the Xbox 360, so that wouldn't be like a major like had to get game, but it would be nice to have. I really would like to play Halo 5 because Halo 4, not being a huge Halo fanboy, I've always liked the Halo games casually, just like I've kind of liked the Gears of War games. I don't think that they're the best games. I think that there's better duck and cover shooters out there. I think Gears of War is what made the duck and cover shooter like a household thing. Although in the past there were other duck and cover shooters. The one that comes to mind is there's a couple. There's Winback, which was originally a Nintendo 64 game. Then they re-released it on the PlayStation 2. But that was kind of a mixture of Metal Gear Solid as well. But that kind of had a cover mechanic. And the one that really has like a Gears of War cover mechanic is Kill Switch, which that might be a game that you might still be interested in. That's on the original Xbox and PlayStation 2. That really had the most refined duck and cover mechanic until Gears of War came out. But I really don't care about the Gears of War remastered. I kind of felt like the first Gears of War was really pretty and everything, but it didn't do anything special. And I remember one of my videos where I was playing Gears of War Judgment, and I was shooting a glass bottle with this overpowered gun, and it couldn't even break the glass bottle. And if you go back to PlayStation 1 games, you could break glass bottles. I'm a huge advocate for environmental destruction, so if you can't break windows or break bottles for some reason, it really bothers me. It didn't ruin that experience or anything, but I was like, that's kind of lame. But yeah, this is one of the best looking original Xbox games I've ever seen, and a great version of Conker. Instead of taking out all the bleeping and uncensoring the game, they actually ironically censored it more. So some of the curse words in the Nintendo 64 version, they bleeped out. Like, I think the worst curse word they might say is ass, and maybe it's because they spell it A-R-S. Was it A-R-S-E? I can't remember. I never spell it that way. I just spell it A-S-S. But yeah, Rare is a British developer, so they kind of spell things differently. And you can tell that they're British actors trying to do American accents, because some of the things they say kind of sound a little bit strange if they're trying to do an American accent. Every once in a while, the British accent comes through a little bit. But yeah, this is the only part that's slightly different from the Nintendo 64 game. In the Nintendo 64 game, you would just hit the bad guy with the iron skillet, and that would be it. Conker had a iron skillet, and this, yeah, is a baseball bat with nails and shit in it. The controls are a little bit weird in this version as well. It has a very first-person shooter or third-person shooter control style, and it's kind of weird for a platformer. It takes a bit getting used to. I don't know how I feel about it. I kind of like the old style. I didn't check if you could change it. The problem with it is that later on in the game and with the multiplayer modes that no longer work online, but you can, however, play them with a friend or by yourself, like Star Wars Battlefront, and they're quite fun. And then the shooting controls, the dual analog stick controls actually work in your favor, and they work really nice with guns, because most of the multiplayer modes use gunplay. And later on in the game, when you're playing the D-Day like sections where you have guns in the Matrix sections, they parody a lot of movies and stuff like that. That's why I left the opening of the game to kind of show you the multiplayer, because I knew I wouldn't get to it in a timely manner. But anyway, the whole story is about this squirrel having a hangover and trying to get home, and at the same time there's like this tiger, which you'll see now, who has a fucked up table, and that's my dog coughing in the background because she freaking chewed on something that she should just be not doing, but she didn't. It's her toy, but she destroys her toys instead of playing with them sometimes. And I don't know why people keep on buying her toys, to be honest with her, at least the ones that can be destroyed. But anyway, he has this fucked up table or whatever, and the only thing that can fix it, their brilliant idea, is to get Conker, who's the perfect height of one of the other legs of the table, to actually support it. And it's fucking ridiculous what this whole game is. You're not going to see a whole lot of controversial stuff in this video, unfortunately. Again, it's kind of why I showed like the little intro of all the extra multiplayer levels that you can play single player, split screen with friends. You can play it single player with bots, and it's pretty fun, to be honest with you. I tried a few of them. Obviously, again, you can't play it online. This is original Xbox One title, but that's where the live came in. It originally had a lot of Xbox Live mode. So beside the graphical overhauls and that brief difference in the beginning and the change in the controls, the game's pretty much content-wise the same, and then it has extra multiplayer levels, which again you can play single player with friends, and they're pretty fun actually. Like I said, I'm saying the same things over again, but I know multiplayer is sort of a bad word with a lot of people, so I wanted to clarify over and over again that you can play it by yourself or with a friend. Again, remember, this is original Xbox game. Not everything was multiplayer centric back then. Usually if there was a multiplayer mode, you could usually play it with a friend, split screen, or by yourself. But yeah, this game's really nice looking. I can't, unfortunately, in a timely manner show you all the fucked up shit, but this game gets pretty controversial pretty fast. It's pretty gory. A lot of, there's like fire enemies that you gotta put out by like peeing on them and stuff like that. It's ridiculous, and the gameplay is very, very varied. Where there's shooting levels, like third-person shooters, where it's like an action game. There's like a snowboarding like level, except it's on lava and stuff like that. The gameplay like always switches it up, and you're wondering what's going to be parodied for like movie-wise. And if you like Alien, Star Wars, and all those other popular movies, you'll enjoy all the nods. They don't necessarily like overly censor the game, where they actually take out like a lot of the offensive visual stuff. Like usually the thing that they censor is the language, because I guess they thought it'd be funny to bleep out the curse words even more. It's sad that they bleeped out shit where they're like, oh, let's kick the shit out of them. I don't know if you'll be able to hear them say it. They're like, look, a squirrel, let's kick the shit out of them. But yeah, you'll notice that when you give your money back, when you give your money to somebody, your money like jumps out of their pocket and crawls back to you, so you never really lose money, you just accumulate it over time. But later on, the game gets really linear. It starts out sort of open, so it tricks you into thinking it's one of those scavenger hunt type games. Like I said, like a lot of Square's older games that I don't really care for, but later on the game becomes a lot more linear, and it's more about puzzle solving, and usually the puzzles are solved in very, very crude ways, and it's just hilarious to see cartoon squirrels. And it's funny knowing that the original Conker's Bad Fur Day was originally supposed to be like a scavenger hunt collectathon game. You'll notice blood and stuff splatters on the screen. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't remember if that was in the Nintendo 64 version, as I haven't played that in years. But anyway, as when I was talking about games for the Xbox One or whatever that so far I would really like to play, is Rare Replay, the Halo collection, just because it looks like a nicer version to have, and I like them as fun, casual little shooting games. I'd like to see the storyline of Halo 5 since I finished Halo 4 and it kind of left on kind of a sad note. I'm not going to get into detail just in case you want to play Halo 4. And I think that if you didn't like the other Halo games, you should at least give Halo 4 a chance if you like shooters, because I was really impressed how they changed the mechanics and added more weight to the guns and gave it this whole graphical overhaul. It feels really improved from the other games. Halo Reach was headed in the right direction as well, but Halo 4, in my opinion, really nailed it. My friend, who absolutely doesn't really care for Halo games at all, borrowed my copy of Halo 4 and absolutely loved it and was surprised how much he liked it. So I'm curious where Halo 5 is going, since the same people who made Halo 4 from scratch made Halo 5. They also made the Halo collection and screwed up on it, but and repatched and apologized and then gave the Halo OST game for free or whatever, but they didn't make those games from ground up. Bungie did. They did, however, make Halo 4 from ground up, and it looks like a cool game. I'd also really like to play Quantum Break, and I believe that's what it's called, the game by Remedy that not everybody, a lot of people are bitching about, that it's 720p. Hey, the original Uncharted games ran on 720p, and I think they look great as long as the assets are good, like texture-wise and stuff like that. You can still have a sharp-looking 720p game, and I think the Xbox One upscales it, so I think it looked fine. And from what I saw with them shooting and little particles and shit breaking off of like the stuff that you're hiding behind in the little pieces versus like already predetermined broken pieces. Like sometimes you play these 3D games, and if you rotate the camera at a certain angle, you can see where the barrier that you're hiding behind would crack and break apart, and it kind of ruins the illusion a little bit. Well, apparently this is like really physics heavy. It looks cool. Everything that Remedy made from the first two Max Paynes and the Alan Wake games I absolutely love, so that would probably be one of the games I would really like to try out. And then Sunset Overdrive from Insomniac, because I really love Insomniac as a studio and really enjoyed the Ratchet and Clank games and the Resistance Fallen Man game, so I can't imagine them fucking up Sunset Overdrive. But so far those are the only games that I would really want to play, which is Rare Replay, the Halo games, which is the collection, Halo 5, Quantum Break, and then Sunset Overdrive. But beside that, they don't have a lot of exclusives. They had Rise of the Tomb Raider, but that's eventually going to come out on PlayStation 4. I actually got it on Xbox 360, and it's quite a decent port. It doesn't feel gimped. There's some slowdown at the very end, but if you saw the amount of shit that was going on at that part, it's not game breaking. It's just noticeable, and it's understandable for the amount of shit that's going on, but it doesn't feel like a GIMP version compared to the first Tomb Raider game on the Xbox. Well, the first remake Tomb Raider game. There was originally Tomb Raider Legend, Tomb Raider Anniversary, and Tomb Raider Underworld. I'm talking about the Tomb Raider game that came out after that, the one that takes place before Rise of the Tomb Raider. It doesn't feel like a downgrade from that game. It actually feels like that would be the sequel if there wasn't an Xbox One version. Now, I'm sure if you saw the Xbox One version or the PC version, you probably feel like it was gimped. But if you played the original Xbox 360 version and then played Rise of the Tomb Raider on the Xbox 360, you would just think it was the natural sequel, the natural progression. And I can't wait to play it on PlayStation 4 because I absolutely loved it on the Xbox 360. I was impatient. I couldn't wait. I was going to have to wait a year, and I really wanted to play the game. And my friend did the same thing, although he doesn't have I'm sure he plans on getting one and upgrading his PC, but he didn't want to wait either because he loved that Tomb Raider as much as me. And I guess we tried to hold off, but you know, we're just impatient, I guess. I don't know, but it's great, and I would definitely check it out or wait for the PlayStation 4 version. Like, I'm definitely gonna get that. I'm not playing any. I might play the 360 version for a video. I probably will, actually. I was going to do the 360 version of that game when I recorded this, but between this and Indiana Jones, by the time I was done playing, I played way longer than I'm into, and I was just like, let me get these games into the computer and record them and leave it at that, because I'd leave it for another day, because I was getting way behind schedule and I wanted to start getting these games rendered so I could work on the commentary. So I'll probably eventually do Rise of the Tomb Raider sooner than later, because I also eventually want to do the PlayStation 4 version. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.